It's so quiet. Hopefully my video and audio is working.
It is.
Good. Well, it's 9:02. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we all try to transition to another work week here. All right. So it looks to me like we've got everybody from the TAC, except possibly Fergie. I haven't seen her join yet, but we'll go ahead and get started, recognizing the time here. So before we do the roll call, I just want to remind everybody, because this is a virtual meeting, to just state your full name when doing the roll call or when making comments and asking questions. And then obviously, if you're not speaking, if you can keep your phone on mute, just to cut down on any background noise. And I'd like to go ahead and ask Easter to go ahead and do the roll call. Easter or Gina, I'm not sure which one's doing it.
Hi, it's Easter. I'll go ahead and do that today. For City of Cotati.
Big Scott, City of Cotati.
City of Petaluma.
Kent Carruthers, City of Petaluma.
City of Rohnert Park.
Mary Grace Pawson, City of Rohnert Park.
City of Santa Rosa.
Jennifer Burke, Santa Rosa Water.
City of Sonoma. North Marin Water District.
Drew McIntyre, North Bend Water District.
Town of Windsor.
Christina Goulart, Town of Windsor.
Valley of the Moon Water District.
Matt Fulner, Valley of the Moon Water District.
Marin Municipal Water District.
I saw Lucy's say something, but I couldn't hear her. I don't see that she's on mute.
Lucy Croy, Marin Water.
There we go. Thank you, Lucy.
All right, and for staff and public attendees, just one moment. We have Gina Perez, Grant Davis, Jay Disperse, Pam Jean, Paul Piazza, Barry Dugan, Bob Anderson, Brad Sherwood, Brenda Edelman, Claire Nordley, Colin Close, David Keller, Evan Jacobs, Margaret DeGenova, Peter Martin, Sandy Potter, Stephen Hancock, Tony Williams, and Ben Hornstein.
Okay, thank you, Easter. Okay, next item after doing roll call is to open it up for public comment. These are items that are not on the agenda. So I'm going to go ahead and start public comment. If you wish to make a public comment, again, for a non-agenda item via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 if you're participating by phone. Gina, are you seeing any indication of any public comments?
I do have one hand raised for Brenda Edelman, so I'm going to enable her ability to talk. Okay, Brenda, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, thank you very much. I saw the presentation the other day on drought for the Lower Russian River, and I thought it was very well done, but I have to make one comment. In the presentation by Grant and Don Seymour, there was really no mention of impacts to the Lower Russian River. Their presentation, which was very well done for as far as it went, really didn't say anything about the impacts to the Lower River. I think other presenters made excellent comments, so it may just be that you thought you didn't need to say anything because others would cover it. But it concerns me that there's no attention being publicly made by the water agency about concerns about this whole situation. And the main point I want to make is that there's going to be dire impacts to everybody, and I understand that. But there is, the controversy for me is going from 85 CFS at Hacienda to 35 CFS at Hacienda would just about kill the lower river in many ways. And what concerns me is that there is still water in Lake Sonoma, and I don't think there has been adequate analysis about why you can't send more down to the lower river to come up with 50 or 60 CFS instead of 35. 35 is going to do devastating damage to the lower river. There's not going to be hardly any water for recreation. But the other concerns are about toxic algae, high bacteria counts, bioconcentration of toxins. It's going to be a public health nightmare because there will be people with their children and their pets getting in the river no matter how much messaging was done. And it would be nice to hear some attempt to make some adjustments to compensate for, or not compensate, but to avoid any kind of devastating consequences to our part of the river. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Any other public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay, just let the meeting minutes note that I did not receive any comments via voicemail or email for agenda item 2 as well. It had a cutoff at 5 p.m. yesterday. So we're going to move to agenda item number 3, election of the TAC leadership. So this is something that we've been seeing now every 2 years. We have some new TAC leadership protocols in place. So this is the time now for Jennifer and I to be reaffirmed, essentially, for what would be the second and last 2-year term for the current leadership as organized. Or obviously the TAC could elect to make a change and come up with a different proposed leadership configuration. So there's 2 options here for the TAC to consider. One is to just reaffirm the existing leadership with me as the chair and Jennifer Burke as the vice chair, or option 2 is to elect a new leadership structure. So before opening this up to any public comment, I just want to see if there's, and again, in advance of taking any action, is there any general questions and comments from the TAC? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9. Gina, do you see any indication of any public comment?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Okay, thank you, Gina, and let the record reflect that I did not receive any public comments by 5 p.m. yesterday as well. So at this point in time, I'd like to go ahead and bring it back to the TAC for a motion and a second.
This is Colleen Ferguson with City of Sonoma. I move to continue with the existing excellent leadership of the TAC.
Kent Carruthers will second that.
Okay, it's been motioned by City of Sonoma, seconded by City of Petaluma to continue on with the current TAC leadership configuration. So Easter, can you go ahead and do a roll call, please?
Yes. City of Cotati,
Craig Scott, yes.
City of Petaluma,
Kent Carruthers, yes.
City of Burnett Park,
Mary Grace Paulson, yes.
City of Santa Rosa,
Jennifer Burke, yes.
City of Sonoma,
Colleen Ferguson, yes.
North Marin Water District,
Drew McIntyre, North Marin Water District, yes.
Town of Windsor,
Christina Goulart, Town of Windsor, yes.
Valley of the Moon Water District.
Matt Fulner, Valley of the Moon Water District, yes.
That is agenda item number 3, unanimously approved.
Thank you, Easter. And again, thank you to the TAC for your continued support. And Jennifer, thanks again for continuing to work as part of the TAC chair as well. It's been a good working relationship, and I expect nothing but the same to continue for the next 2 years. Okay, let's move to agenda item number 4, water supply conditions and temporary urgency change petition update. And hopefully Don Seymour is out doing something very fun this week, and Pam Jean has graciously agreed to fill in on some of these reports we typically hear from Don. So Pam, you want to go ahead and unmic yourself there?
Yep. So hopefully everybody can hear me. Yeah, Don is doing something fun, so good for him. He's up in the mountains, which sounds lovely. So not sure what's up on the screen here. This is...
Oh, that's just actually...
Oh, this is your guys' letter to Eric. Okay, I got it. Okay, so I'll start with that, then I'll start with the temporary urgency change petition that was filed a while back now. And the comment period for the petition ended last week, I think on Wednesday, if I have the dates right. And there were quite a few comments received, so they are working on responses to those comments right now, or working on incorporating them into an order. As you can see, the contractors and specifically the TAC submitted comments on it. We appreciate that. They also certainly received comments from lots of individuals as well as resource agencies, which those resource agency comment letters will have much bearing on what the order will look like in terms of conditions that will be set in the order. So we heard from Sam Bowl and Brian, who is sort of the lead in the unit, the Russian River unit at the State Water Board, working on the temporary urgency change order, that he expects we'll have the order by the end of this week. So he didn't say specifically what day, but they're hoping to get that order out to us by the end of the week. So I don't know if there's anything else anybody might have questions on that, but that's the current progress that's been made there. And hopefully folks are, because it's been explained a couple times what the petition is requesting, but if you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer those. So the other thing that I will provide right now is an update on water supply conditions, which are not good, as you know. And specifically Lake Mendocino, as of, I think this was Saturday, the data that I have in front of me was at 34,391 acre feet. We did projections of Lake Mendocino storage in order to have 20,000 acre feet in the reservoir in October of this year, and we're literally just several acre feet above that storage projection right now. So it's looking okay right now, but we also haven't had terribly hot weather and a lot of demand so far. So we'll see how that keeps going. As Dawn has said before to this group and to lots of groups now, including a lot of members of the public, Lake Mendocino is in really bad condition. It's essentially at a level that we'd like to see it at the end of the summer, not at the beginning of the summer. And so we, of course, are very concerned about it getting very low and getting below the point where there's any water in the lake going into the fall in case there's a dry fall and winter next year. And so that's, of course, what precipitated our temporary urgency change petition back in January, and our sort of refiling because that petition runs out, that order runs out in July. So the other thing that Dawn has mentioned, and I'll reiterate it here, is that simply changing minimum stream flow requirements to preserve storage is not going to save that reservoir this year, and that there's going to have to be some pretty substantial changes in normal use patterns of water that is released from that reservoir, which means that all those folks from Healdsburg North up to the reservoir itself are going to need to do their best to either not use water at all for certain purposes or use a lot less water than they normally do. So State Water Board is extremely aware of this, which is one of the reasons why they're working so hard to get the order out. The other thing that they are working on, though, is an emergency. I'm not going to get the proper terminology here. It's like an emergency regulation, sorry. And that emergency regulation will hopefully help them have some more tools so that they can not just try to work even more than they have been working with folks, diverters and water users in the upper river, but also it gives them just some more tools in their tool belt to help them. So with regards to water rights and water use by water rights holders. So that emergency regulation, I think, is going to their board. I think the regulation was released at the end of last week, along with the agenda for the State Water Board meeting, which is on June 15th. And so they are asking that if folks support that regulation, that they show up at the State Water Board meeting and voice that support for the regulation. Of course, that's assuming that you do support it. So they've made that pretty clear. So sorry, got a little bit off track there, but I did want to mention that emergency regulation that was coming out or came out. The proposal was out, and make sure that you guys were aware of that too. So as far as Lake Sonoma storage goes, it's not looking great either. We are at the lowest we've ever seen the reservoir since it filled in 1986. And we're at 137,804 acre feet as of Saturday, which is pretty low. And to answer Brenda's question about why we're so concerned about Lake Sonoma, and it's because we've done projections looking into the fall, and we're really concerned that if we have another dry fall and winter, which we've had recently, 2 in a row, and a couple years we didn't get any rainfall till February, that we're going to be jeopardizing water for health and safety purposes if this drought continues. And so that's why we're asking for the lower flows in the lower river. We recognize that it's not ideal, but we also recognize that in a critical water year under our water rights, that the flows that we're asking for is essentially what is in our water rights permits right now. And I would be hard pressed to believe anybody who would tell me that we're not in a critical year this year. We were last year also. And so we're not asking for anything unusual or out of the realm of what's allowed in our water rights permits. And so that's what we're asking for. Decision 1610, unfortunately, is not reflective of our watershed. And so if you look at our water rights permits in a critical year, that's the flows that we're asking for, but we're not classified as critical this year. And that's because of that disconnection between our decision 1610, which sets those minimum flows, and Lake Pillsbury, which is in the Eel River, which is what determines what type of year we're in, and the Russian River watershed being a different watershed. So again, my opinion is that we are in a critical year. And again, under decision 1610, these are the flows that we would be shooting for in that type of a year. So it's not, it's extraordinary. We had in terms of, we haven't actually had to operate this way, but at least in my tenure, but we were feeling like we really needed to protect that water supply for the hundreds of thousands of people who rely on it for health and safety. And so that's why we filed the petition the way we filed it. And if we're not getting the message out there, we will work harder to do that. So, so I think that's it for my update, Drew, unless there's questions, which I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Thank you also for following up and addressing Brenda's question. So I'll now go ahead and open this up to TAC questions and comments. I see Jennifer's got her hand raised.
Thanks, Drew. And Pam, thank you for the report. I think we all continue to know we're in very dire conditions, so we appreciate the information and update. I did have two questions. You may have mentioned this and I may have missed it, but in terms of the emergency rulemaking, did you say when that was going to be heard at the State Water Board?
Yes, June 15th, which is next week. I don't remember what day of the week, Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, next week. I can't remember what day of the week it is.
Okay, thank you. I had a feeling I missed that. I was scribbling notes frantically.
Do I have that right, Grant? Do I just, yeah, okay. He's nodding his head.
And then in terms of the comments that were received on the temporary urgency change petition, I know they don't normally post them on the website. Is there any sort of general summary or information that you might be able to provide on what we might see in terms of how that might affect the order based on comments received? And if not, that's okay.
I don't know if I could say specifically. I think certainly I would expect that everything that the resource agencies are requesting in terms of habitat monitoring, water quality monitoring, those types of things, I would expect those to just get incorporated into the order. Typically, that's the kind of request that the State Water Board is actually looking for input from those agencies in order to put those conditions or terms in the order. So I would expect those to just show up. In terms of, I think the vast majority of the requests coming from, my understanding is coming from, I think mostly folks who are concerned about the lower river, were a request that instead of allowing the 35 cubic feet per second, which we're asking for, allowing a 60 cubic feet per second minimum. So I don't know how the State Water Board is going to address that exactly, but I do know that that they are also very concerned about Lake Sonoma. They're extremely concerned about Lake Mendocino because there's projections out there that show that lake could go dry. But they're also very, very concerned about Lake Sonoma, and it's from a health and safety perspective. There's a lot of people who are reliant on that reservoir for health and safety purposes, and they're concerned that if we have another dry winter, that is going to be a problem for that reservoir. The other thing that I know they're taking into consideration, because we've we've heard Sam say this, is that, we have these sort of maximum release requirements at Lake Sonoma for endangered species purposes, for flow and dry creek not being too high. And if they increase the minimum flow to the 60, which is I think what several folks have indicated they're asking for, we would be out of compliance with the Endangered Species Act and our instill take permit under our biological opinion. So that's a problem, and they don't, I'm sure, they're aware of that. I don't know how they're going to handle it, but I'm sure that they are not particularly interested in us violating our instill take permit or instill take statement too under the Federal Endangered Species Act. So, but we'll have to see how they deal with that once we see the order.
Thanks, Pam. I appreciate the update.
Any other questions from the TAC before I open it up to public comment? Pam, just a couple quick questions I had. Once the order is received, can you remind me how long does it typically take the agency to actually make any changes on releases?
Sometimes we've made them that day. But we are, unfortunately, just because of what physically is going on at both reservoirs right now, Lake Mendocino, the power plant is not operating. The city of Ukiah's hydropower plant is not operating, so the Corps is actually having to physically make gate changes up there. So there is some lag time. And they're not making those changes over the weekend. So say we got this thing on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, we would not probably be able to make a change at Lake Mendocino, which we don't need to make a change there, but that change wouldn't happen till the next week. Lake Sonoma is kind of the same issue. The Corps of Engineers has to physically, because the hydro plant is not operating, the Corps gate tenders have to actually go make that change. Typically, we can't get that change made over a weekend. So it may be a few days before we can make a change, but we will ask for it immediately when we get the order. So it just may take a few days for them to actually physically get out there and do it.
Okay, thanks. All right. Again, we are on agenda item number 4. We're going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 by phone.
Drew, I do have one hand. I have 2 hands raised. First one is Brenda Edelman. I'm going to enable her to speak. Go ahead, Brenda.
Brenda?
Thank you.
There we go. Okay.
All right. I just have brief comment. At a casual review, I've been watching the levels go down at both reservoirs, and it just seems to me, without studying specific numbers, that it's been going down faster than usual, and that this may be a mistake on my part. I know that the contractors are doing a lot of work on gearing up for conservation, but it just seemed like in 2014, there was a lot more being done at this point in time than I've seen lately. And one of the big issues, I've seen articles on how much growth and development is going through the process in Roner Park and Santa Rosa. Thousands of units are being approved. And I've also seen letters to the editors that say, why should we save water if it's just going to go towards new development? And this is a serious issue. And it's a big question that needs to be answered if you are going to support devastating impacts to the lower river. Because to save the fish in one part of the river in Dry Creek and kill them in another is ridiculous. Basically, the biological opinion doesn't really have much in the way of protections for the fish in the lower river, believe it or not. The focus is on Dry Creek and on the estuary. So I don't feel I've seen enough in the way of conservation efforts. I don't see enough programs that do things like Cash for Grass, which I know was very successful. I just think that the contractors really need to gear up and act as though there's a critical emergency going on in terms of conservation. And I know I'm not the only one who is making that observation. Anyway, that was my main comment.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. I would like to acknowledge that diversions to the retail water contractors are down almost 30%, Brenda, than what they were over 10 years ago. So there's been a significant reduction in demands off of the Russian River by the contractors.
And I say, one more thing is, there was a significant demand, but the last couple of years it's been going back up again. So if you look at the numbers of 10 years ago, yes, there's been big improvement. But given our current circumstances, you have, I think, a lot further to go before you even match the accomplishments of 2015 and 16. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Gina, we had another comment from the public.
Yes, I have David Keller, so I'm going to allow him to speak as well. Okay, David, your mic has been enabled.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. David Keller, Friends of the Eel River. Thanks for this discussion. I'm just going through the draft order on the State Board website. And the curtailment orders for the upper and middle reach of the Russian are dependent on the storage levels by date at Lake Mendocino. And one of the questions that I asked Sam Boland-Bryant was, what is enforcement in the upper river? And he relayed that since the State Board has only funded 20 enforcement positions for the entire state, he was not very optimistic that there would be enforcement staff out, particularly for those diverters on the upper and middle Russian who are not permitted or licensed. And that becomes a burden again on Sonoma County Water Agency's ability to manage water levels at Lake Mendocino, since you have your minimum 1610 flows. And if water is diverted beyond that, you've got to make it up. Do you see anything? Do you see anything that can be done to help maintain your water supply at Lake Mendocino? I guess it's a question for Pam or for Grant. Maintaining that water supply and being able to assist in identifying where losses are that are not being reported to the state board. State boards requiring reports from rights holders within 7 days, which can be kind of slow as you're trying to manage daily releases. Do you see any capability or any entity, whether it's another agency or not, that could assist in identifying losses that should not be happening that you're having to make up for?
Actually, we do expect, we've talked to the State Water Board about this to try to help them understand where perhaps there's more water being used than we would expect. So one of the things that we anticipate will be in the order that we receive is some analysis by reach in the river. So this would be between the gauges. So, for example, between the Hopland gauge and the Cloverdale gauge. We have data, historical data for reach losses or losses of how much water is being either used or being used by people or by riparian vegetation or evaporated, because we can see the difference in flow in those two gauges. So one of the things, as I started to say, is we are anticipating that they're going to require us to provide information about losses, reach losses, and provide that data sort of in a historic, current data in a historical context. So in other words, we have this historical data, we can compare it to what we're seeing today. And if there's some really big difference there, that may lead them to believe that there's some extra water use going on, may or may not have anything to do with people. It may have to do with heat or whatever. But we do anticipate that we'll be providing that information to the State Water Board. We anticipate it'll be required that we provide it to the State Water Board in order to give them some more data on just that type of information and where they might want to go out if they have only a handful of enforcement people, where they might want to concentrate their effort.
Okay, I appreciate that and hope that gives the state board a little bit more push to pay attention. I'm also encouraging state board members to fund additional enforcement officers in the coming budget, because as Sam and Brian said, even if they hired more or went out to hire more enforcement agents now, they couldn't be trained, qualified, and sent out in the field this year. So it's a real problem. And I encourage all of the contractors to let the state water board members know that the Russian River watershed needs enforcement officers, and they need to get the legislature and the governor to fund it. It's a real problem. Also, a follow-up question. Are you aware at this point of any of the cities and the Mendocino water districts instituting mandatory curtailments on deliveries for their customers?
Several of the districts up there have already, well, at least one of them has already implemented. They cut off Redwood Valley County Water District, cut off all their ag water use, and they are down to health and safety of 55 gallons per person per day in their district. The flood control district up there, which is our sister agency that shares the water right for stored water in Lake Mendocino, they are, I don't want to use the word rationing because that's not right, but they are working with their customers to allocate what is available to them. And so that's already happening also. So they are doing a lot of work. Beth up there is doing a lot of work to coordinate with her customers to try to sort of flatten their demand out. So her customers are getting a lot. There's been a lot of interaction between the district and their customers to make sure that that happens. So she's trying to sort of flatten their demand out, make sure we don't have spikes, sort of spread their use out, over, say, a week. And she's providing information to her customers every week about, here's your schedule. So she's sort of scheduling their usage.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hopefully the rest of the cities drawing water from the Russian will institute mandatory curtailments shortly. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Gina, any other public comments on agenda item number 4?
I'm not seeing any other hands.
Okay, again, and Easter, I can't recall if I stated this, but just again for the record that I did not receive any voicemails or emails prior to the 5 p.m. cutoff yesterday on agenda item number 4 as well. So we're gonna
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Drew. I just had one more hand pop up for Evan Jacobs.
Okay.
I will go
Evan?
ahead and enable his ability to speak.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Evan Jacobs, California American Water. Just wanted to let the group know that we went ahead and filed for mandatory conservation measures in our Geyserville system with the PUC last week, and that takes about 30 days for them to approve, and we'll have a public hearing virtually on June 17th on our order.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Okay, Jennifer Burt, do you have a comment?
Thank you, Drew.
Question?
I just wanted to just take a moment to sort of reassure Brenda that we have been very, very active in requesting water conservation activities. We started as the partnership, a dry year campaign in December of last year. We have been promoting that campaign very actively. I know that I can only speak for Santa Rosa, but we have 25 different rebate and incentive programs that are available, including Cash for Grass. We recently increased the amount that we rebate for our Cash for Grass program, and we have been supplementing all the activities of the partnership. Recently, we switched over to a drought campaign from the dry year campaign, and it's really been a very robust campaign with lots of information. I think you're going to hear a little bit more in the next item. We have a big regional drought drop by event that's happening this Saturday. So I really just want to reassure and make sure that everyone's aware that we have been messaging significantly, implementing programs. Again, I can only speak for Santa Rosa, but we started our water waste patrols in last month. We adopted a request for a 20% reduction in water use. And as Drew mentioned, we've all seen significant reductions. For Santa Rosa in particular, since 1990, we've had a doubling in population and our total water use has decreased by 14%. So new development is required to be very, very efficient. And we take that into account as we're working with our communities to request reductions in water use. So again, just wanted to reassure that there's a very active campaign. You can find out information about it and you'll hear a little bit more in the next item.
Okay, thanks,
This is Gina. I'm sorry. We have an additional public speaker, Bob Anderson, and I'm going to go ahead and enable his ability to talk.
Bob, you there?
I am. Thank you. I just wanted to respond as a ratepayer in the city of Healdsburg. The city has sent out mandatory conservation 20%.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Okay, I think we've finished on agenda item number 4, and then we're going to segue just kind of, Jennifer was talking about just what the partnership has been doing and locally just over this last year. And as she indicated, Paul Piazza will be diving into that in more detail under the partnership discussion. The first item under the partnership, though, is an important action item. This is going to be covered by Paul Piazza. It's essentially follows up on the partnership's efforts to try to expand in the Sonoma and Marin region, additional cities into the partnership because of our interest and focus on trying to do as much as we can to conserve water and branch out even above and beyond the water contractors. So the partnership has grown over the years, and most recently, back in 2019, Cal American was added early in the year, and then in the summer, we also had Healdsburg added. So again, I think it's really important as we're trying to communicate to the community as a whole that conservation is important, and the more people that we can have join along the Russian River in the partnership, the better it is for the Russian River in its entirety. So we have a new potential member. This is an action item again, and it's City of Cloverdale. I'm going to turn this over to Paul Piazza.
Thank you, Drew. Just want to do a sound check, make sure you can hear me okay.
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you. So last fall, or actually I think last summer, we entertained an initial request by the city of Cloverdale regarding becoming a member of the Sonoma Marin Saving Water Partnership. One of the considerations for the change to the MOU that occurred back in 2018 was to streamline the addition of new partners into the membership that were non-contractors. So the MOU does allow new agencies that either have a water supply connection to the Russian River or otherwise interested in water use efficiency, such as some of the newly formed groundwater sustainability agencies, to have a process for becoming members. So in April, the City Council of Cloverdale heard a measure and passed a resolution in support of execution of the MOU to become a member. They also agreed to budget and expend what would be needed for the annual fees for membership and also for the consideration of local water conservation programming match. So just so those that are participating today that are not aware, in addition to the annual fees required, there is a local program spend that's also required that's 175% of the annual fee. And those monies are budgeted and expended by those partners to implement additional water conservation programming for their constituency. So for Cloverdale, the annual fee is just over $22,000, or is $22,000 annually. They're also required to have a local program match of $38,500. The MOU specifies that the initial inquiry to become a member of the partnership be heard by the TAC Water Conservation Subcommittee for approval. That occurred in May. We had a regular quarterly meeting of the Water Conservation Subcommittee, and that motion was approved for recommendation today for the TAC to consider Cloverdale's entry into the partnership. So with that, that's all I have in terms of updates. Once the motion is considered, we do have staff attending the meeting from City of Cloverdale who have interest in saying a few comments as well.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Turn it back to the TAC members for any questions and comments. Again, this is an action item. Don't see anybody from the TAC. So we'll now go ahead and open this up to the public. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 on your phone. Gina, any indication of any public comments?
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any voicemail or emails on agenda item number 5A at the 5 p.m. cutoff yesterday. So we'll bring this back to the TAC again. I'm looking for a motion in a second before taking a vote.
This is Jennifer Birkin, Santa Rosa. I'll move approval of adding Cloverdale to the partnership.
Is there a second?
City of Roanoke Park, second. Sorry, Craig.
It's okay.
All right, we have a motion from Santa Rosa, seconded by Roanoke Park. Easter, can you go ahead and this is to approve adding City of Cloverdale as a membership to the partnership. Easter, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes. City of Cotati? City of Petaluma?
Yes. Kent Carruthers, City of Petaluma.
City of Roanoke Park?
Yes, Mary Grace Posson, City of Roanoke.
City of Santa Rosa?
Jennifer Burke, Santa Rosa Water, yes.
City of Sonoma,
Colleen Ferguson, City of Sonoma, yes.
North Marin Water District,
Brewer McIntyre, North Run Water District, yes.
Town of Windsor,
Christina Goulart, Town of Windsor, yes.
Valley of the Moon Water District.
Matt Fulner, Valley of the Moon Water District, yes.
That's agenda item 5A unanimously approved.
Okay, great. And then Paul, did you indicate that we had somebody from the city that wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I would like to introduce Mark Rincon, who's the city's public works director and city engineer for the city of Cloverdale. And he's here to say a few words on the city's behalf. So Mark, I see you've joined.
Yes, thank you everyone for approving this motion. We look forward to working collaboratively to our limited resources. Of course, you know, Cloverdale is totally dependent on the Russian River watershed and how it's well managed. So we want to get in on that and also, you know, help with going through this current drought. I know it's pretty severe out there, and we'll see a lot more reduced flows as the season progresses. So we're here to cooperate. We already instituted a 25% cutback voluntary. We'll be advancing that to mandatory here shortly as we get more information. But I'm looking forward to working collaboratively with the group and getting the word out, getting the water savings products out there, and moving forward, getting through this drought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to have you on board.
Yeah, welcome, Mark, to the team.
Thank you.
Looking forward to your participation as a partnership.
I did also note that one of the participants today is Eric Jansen. Eric is a senior engineering tech for the city of Cloverdale. And if I'm not mistaken, Mark, Eric will be the staff liaison for the TAC Water Conservation Subcommittee moving forward. So just want to welcome Eric to the fray as well.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to move on to agenda item number 5B. This is information item, just our typical production summary of for water production through the year to date. So this is available, shows the year to date water usage is down 8% compared to the baseline year 2013. And again, it has the monthly graphs showing that data. And then in the second page, it shows the gallons per day per capita trending since the mid-1990s. And then this is something that we will, with Cloverdale joining, then Cloverdale will be added to this data moving forward as well as we continue to expand the partnership. Any questions from the TAC on this agenda item? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Anybody from the public that would like to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand, or via phone, hit *9. Gina, do you see any comments?
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, thank you. Let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any voicemail or emails yesterday afternoon on this agenda item as well. So we will move to agenda item number 5B, drought outreach messaging and temporary emergency change order term 9 reporting. Paul, back to you.
Sure. So first, just want to mention that we've already completed 3 of the monthly reports that are required for term 9 of the current temporary agency change order that was initiated back in January. To date, for the term of the order for those 3 months, the partnership's showing just under 4 million gallons of savings from just the programmatic measures that the partnership has implemented in the last 3 months. So I want to reiterate some of the points Jennifer was making, just to reinforce the understanding that all of the partners have very robust water conservation programs, including Cash for Grass, that are ongoing on a daily basis. We have participation that's very active in all of our programming. And it's a testament to the partnership that on a monthly basis, we are adding millions of gallons of savings every month to our cumulative water reductions as we move forward in time. And again, just to make sure that it's clear, many of the programs that the partnership has in place address behavior change. It's very difficult to estimate savings from those types of actions, particularly to calculate savings based on the outreach that's currently underway and regarding the drought. Most of what we're asking people to do are implementing behavior change for additional water savings. And so the savings that I'm referring to for the monthly report to the state board is really just for those items that are easily quantifiable, such as changing out turf to low water use landscapes, changing out fixtures, whether it be toilets, shower heads, faucet aerators, and the like. And again, all of those are adding up to millions of gallons of savings on a monthly basis, which continue to aggregate over time as we go forward. So, and then in terms of outreach, the partnership, as again, Jennifer brought up, is trying to get the word out on a regional event that's scheduled for June 12th called the Drought Drop. We're spending literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on both outreach and on supplies to provide drought kits to the public free of charge, which include WaterSense certified shower heads, faucet aerators, self-closing hose nozzles, dye tablets for toilet leak detection tests, a variety of tips cards, and other programmatic information for the public to participate in some of these incentive programs that are being offered all the time. And then just over the weekend, I noted in being online that in my website feed, a couple of Drought Drop ads popped up. So we know that the dollars we're spending are reaching. I usually don't see those because I'm not online a ton, but this weekend I was doing a little work and was super happy to see a City of Santa Rosa branded Drought Drop ad pop up in my website feed. If you are a subscriber to the Press Democrat, whether print or online, those ads are also running in the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, and we're a very large print ad in the paper just the other day. And we're expecting that of the 16 locations throughout 3 counties that we're going to get a big turnout. And so there's a lot happening regionally to get the message out. One of the key indicators that the ad campaign is being effective and that our outreach is effective is just the sheer number of news articles, the earned media that we're achieving locally, both through Marin, Sonoma, and Mendocino County. If you haven't had a chance to visit Sonoma Water's drought webpage that's dedicated to information about the outreach, there's a very complete list of all the earned media that's occurring in our region. It's very encouraging to see that our outreach message is becoming very effective and that there's saturation locally that we are in a severe drought and that people need to take it seriously and take steps to continue to reduce water use over and above what would be normal long-term water conservation savings. So partnership is doing a great deal to get this message out and to start getting reductions during the summer. The Drought is Here, Save Water is the campaign that's currently being promoted. So in addition to the current broadcast radio that's being done by the Partnership for the Drought Drop we are just continuing to push out the message through all of our media buys about the campaign. We're taking steps now to look at additional opportunities for further outreach events later in the summer. Santa Rosa has offered up a couple of dates, one in August and one in September, that we're considering with the full partnership support and a variety of other opportunities that are being pursued in terms of billboards, banners, lawn signs, and the like. So we are starting to see some of the numbers swing in our favor, and I only expect that continued additional savings will be achieved by our constituents as we move forward. So that's all I have for that, Drew. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Paul. I do want to show this, if you can see it. As I was leisurely reading the paper, the Marin IJ, get this back here, is an ad that popped up yesterday, Sunday newspaper. It's good to see a nice quarter panel ad in a local newspaper. Trying to, again, a sample of the messaging that Paul has summarized. So any additional questions and comments from the TAC before opening this up to public comment? Colleen?
That was just a thumbs up. Appreciate all the work that's being done. You definitely see it out and about in the media, and really appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Colleen. Anybody else from the TAC? Okay, this is again agenda item number 5C, drought outreach messaging. We're going to open this up for public comment. If you wish to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 on your phone. Gina, any indication of any public wanting to make a comment?
I am not seeing any raised hands from the public.
All right, and let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any voicemail or emails as well. Pam, were you? I don't know, I see a hand up.
Yeah.
Pam. Did you want to
Can you
add
hear me?
anything? Yes.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to flash up my, I think I.
We can't, you're muted. Pam, you're muted. We can't hear all those fine words you're saying.
The top of her letter says drought is here, save water. So it's right at the very top. It's probably mirrored, right? So I'm not sure you can read it.
No, that looks good. Yeah.
Anyways, so it's the message is definitely out there. If people haven't heard it, they are living, under a rock. So.
Yeah, I think, Pam, we missed you in the beginning, but just for clarification, Santa Rosa sent out over 55,000 letters to every one of our customers, letting them know about the requirements in place. And we'll be doing another mass mailing before too long. So we're getting the word out in every which way we can.
Great.
Okay, great.
And Drew, I would just be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to all those that have been involved in supporting this outreach effort, both staffs at all the partnership, our CAGA staff from Brad Sherwood on down through Barry and others on his staff, my staff as well, the concerted efforts of an outreach subcommittee that have been meeting weekly for the last couple of months to get this message out to the public and to coordinate all that's required to do this regional outreach event, which is quite an undertaking. We're looking forward to all the partners arriving this week to pick up all their materials. And I suspect that we'll be continuing throughout the summer doing great work. So kudos to all those involved.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that takes a lot of people's involvement to get this messaging out. So thanks for recognizing all those additional folks, Paul. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 6 now, a biological opinion status update. This is an information item, and Pam, Jean, you're on again.
Hopefully everybody received along with the agenda what's up on the screen right now, which is the update itself. It's a few pages with some photographs in it. So I'm just going to start at the top and really try to just cover some of the changes that have happened. So starting with the fish flow project, we continue to do a lot of work on that project. I believe that the videos that were previewed at the Public Policy Facilitating Committee meeting are on our website, so folks can go there and get a little bit of an education about sort of what I call Russian River 101, and then information about the fish out in the system that we're concerned about, their life cycle, et cetera. So that work continues. Moving down here to the Dry Creek Habitat Enhancement work. We do have a contractor out on site this year to finish up 2 remaining projects in part of phase 3, which is the last phase of the first 3 phases of the project, the first 3 miles. And they expect to be out there. They're actually, I think, starting mobilize right now. Based on, they've been out doing bird surveys. They have, of course, found birds, but they're trying to avoid those. The contractor, who is Hanford, has submitted their master schedule, their weekly meetings as far as construction management have begun. And they do have in-stream work that they need to do this year. So they have a dewatering plan that's been submitted to Sonoma Water for our review. This week, yeah, so it is this week, they are starting to stage their equipment out on site, and they'll start work in the areas outside of the stream, which that work can't start till next week. And they're going to start that upland, what they call upland work and access work right now. So trying to avoid the birds, which we've had issues with nesting birds, not just there, but other places in the county where we're trying to work too. So birds are doing okay this year, apparently. Habitat monitoring and maintenance work. We have environmental staff that has gone out last fall and summer and done a lot of work in terms of physical and biological surveys of the sites that have been constructed. And we spent a little bit of time talking about this at the last meeting, so I'm not really going to cover this. I think the text here is the same as it was the last time we met. So just be aware that there is a lot of work associated with monitoring those new sites to make sure that they're functioning the way they are, so that we can get credit under the biological opinion for the work that we're doing out there. As far as the phase 3 sites go, this is the area that we had issues with sedimentation in the last few years, specifically in 2019 when we had really high flows in the creek. And they're still kind of working on a solution to how to deal with that right now. But they do intend to do some work out there. It probably won't happen until 2022. They're trying to decide that right now. So there is some, I'll call it sort of repair work that needs to be done at that particular site. And they're working on that right now. As far as phase 4 through 6, so these are essentially miles 4 through 6 goes, Interfluve has completed the design and the bid documents for phase 4. And the Corps is currently reviewing some of the changes to right-of-way agreements that have been requested by property owners out there. And there's some information in here about starting construction, and it says it may be delayed. I think at this point, we're pretty sure we're not getting out there this year to construct this project, that it's going to start next year. They are, however, accumulating some logs and large woody debris or large wood material for the project. It's being stocked up at Warm Springs Dam in the Corp Yard up there. The Corps is allowing us to store things up there for the project. So that's happening. As far as phase 5 goes, ESA, who's our consultant doing the design for that project, has completed the 99% design. That project is scheduled to begin construction in 2023. And they're working on, of course, sort of its ongoing right-of-way agreements with property owners and addressing final comments from the Corps of Engineers on that 99% design. That project, the Cardno is addressing comments from the Corps of Engineers on the 99% designs. This is for phase 6. So we have Interfluve working on phase 4, ESA working on phase 5, and Cardno working on phase 6. Phase 6 is not scheduled to go to construction until 2024. And as I said, sort of the right-of-way thing is an ongoing thing, and they are working on access and right-of-way for phase 6 right now also. And then lastly, and we talked about this last time we met, there is a smaller project upstream of a phase 3 site that we're looking at sort of to keep in our back pocket in case we don't get the full 6 miles with the other planned projects. And there's a relationship with the property owner up there, so we're trying to work with that property owner to make sure that if we need some more work, some more mileage, so to speak, for these projects, that we can get it through that project. We talked about this last time. So. Excuse me. As far as fish monitoring goes, we did have a number of downstream monitoring traps out this year, 7 of them specifically, and they're listed here where those locations are. Because of the low flows this year due to drought, many of these traps are already not operating. Well, all of them are not operating anymore. And but they did end up having to pull the traps and stop the monitoring a little bit earlier than we normally do due to the dry weather and the tributaries disconnecting from either the river or dry creek. So the good news is, however, that they had very robust numbers of Chinook salmon smolts captured in both Dry Creek and at Maribel at the dam. So they actually had the second highest numbers that they've seen since we've gotten the biological opinion in October of 2009. So that was good. And there's some speculation in here about why that is, but I'm not a fish person, so I'm not sure I understand it. So anyways, next thing, Russian River Estuary Management. We have had several closures and then self-breaches this year already. There was a possibility that there was going to be a closure over last weekend. As far as I know, it didn't happen. I didn't see an email on it. But we are at that time of year when closures can happen depending on conditions out in the ocean, but with the lower flows in the river, they're more likely to happen until sort of midsummer, and then those closure opportunities are not quite as good. But wanted to let you know that we did submit the 2021 Adaptive Management Plan for the estuary to the resource agencies for review. We expect to finalize that this month. And the monitoring that goes on down in the estuary in terms of pinniped monitoring, water quality monitoring, and they also do fish seining down there, and other biological monitoring is all underway at this point. The last item in the update here is the interim flow changes. Hopefully everybody is aware of where we're at right now. We did file a petition in January. It was approved in February. It applies only to minimum flow requirements in the upper Russian River, and namely impacts to Lake Mendocino. And that order is still in place. It will be it will go away, and the order, if we receive one this week from the State Water Board, will take its place. The petition that we filed in May does address both upper Russian River flows as well as lower Russian River flows, so that we can address our concerns with both Lake Mendocino and Lake Sonoma. One of the things I want to point to also with regards to that petition that we filed, though, is that we're not only asking for a change in minimum stream flow requirements, but we have committed in that petition that we filed, and this was, you guys are all very aware of this, the water contractors are very aware of this. We committed to a 20% reduction in diversions between July and October compared to last year. We really felt like, you know, it was necessary for us to do our part, and that to not just request a change in minimum flow requirements to preserve storage, but also to commit to a reduction in diversions to preserve storage. So that is part of our petition, and I would expect the State Water Board would include that in any order that's issued. So I think that's it, Drew, for me.
Thanks, Pam. Any questions from the TAC on Pam's presentation on the biological or update on the biological opinion? Pam, I would like to just kind of give a shout out to the agency on the fact that they're moving forward with getting to almost final design on some of these future projects, so that recognizing that one of the longest lead items is the right-of-way. So at least you can get the design done and then just concentrate on the right-of-way, which, as we can see here, is just impacting this year's project where the design was ready, but right-of-way has delayed it. So it's good to see some of these future projects a couple years out getting their design 99% plus stage.
Yeah, right of way for those projects it's really challenging. There's a lot of property owners we have to deal with, and the right of way agreements are pretty, you know, they're very robust, and some of the property owners are not very comfortable with them. So, and getting the Corps of Engineers to change what they require is pretty difficult. So it's been quite a challenge.
I bet. Okay, we're going to open this up for public comment. Again, this is agenda item number 6, biological opinion status update. If you're participating via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 if you're on the phone.
We do have one public speaker at this time. Brenda Edelman, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
I just have one more brief comment. One of the things that happens at the lower river that I didn't mention during, I don't know at what point of flow this will happen, and it's something I want to find out, but at any rate, it start to be a disconnect between the river and the tributaries where the fish like to come and go during their life processes. And this is a serious problem because I'd like, my question really is, what are NIMS concerns about this situation? I'm sure they're well aware of it, and yet I haven't heard of any suggestions of how to address it. So it would be a serious impact to their migration patterns if that happens, and it's bound to happen with much lower flows. So I'm just putting that out there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brenda. Any other comments? Gina?
I am not seeing any additional hands.
Okay. Again, let the record reflect that I did not receive any voicemail or email comments by the deadline yesterday as well. So we're going to move on. Hopefully Pam has had a chance to take another sip of water,
I already drank it all.
Yeah. For agenda item number 7, another information item, Potter Valley project update.
Yeah, so there's, I'll just give you an update in terms of really nothing has changed in terms of the relicensing of the project. We are still trying to find money and working hard to do that. Hopefully some state money might come through the revise, well, I don't know if it's being called the May revise anymore, but the revise to the state budget. So that's really the majority of the work that's going on right now so that we can continue the FERC relicensing process. But as far as operation of the Potter Valley project goes, PG&E did file a variance request with FERC. That variance request essentially changes the diversion amount to the Russian River pretty significantly. And they filed that, it was approved, and I don't remember the dates, I apologize, I don't have these dates in my head, but the variance was approved and they started implementing it. But at the same time, they also requested that if anybody had comments or wanted to intervene in the process, that they file either a comment letter or an intervention letter or whatever they chose. I believe the due date for those was last Friday. So they approved the variance, but they approved it conditionally based on the input that they expected to receive. So I saw quite a few filings were made through the listserv process that they have. I get notification of those comment letters or notices of intervention. So there's a number of them have been filed. I'm not sure what NIMS's FERC's exact process is, but I think they were hoping to have comments addressed by about towards the end of this month. For some reason, the 24th sticks in my head. I'm not sure I have that correct. I think we heard last week that just because there's more folks filing that they expected that they might not make that date. This is according to PG&E staff. So at some point their variance may be sort of reopened and changed up. But I would expect, I think everybody expects the variance to stay in place, but it may change what it looks like when they get to a final version of it. But they are implementing it in the meantime. They're also holding weekly meetings. I think it's weekly meetings with what they call a drought working group. That group consists of resource agencies, Potter Valley Irrigation District, the Round Valley Indian tribes. We typically will participate in that also. And so we have an idea of where they are. They provide status update on storage levels and what the flows are looking like and what conditions are like out in the field. And then also what their monitoring is showing them. So those are already happening, and those will, I assume, continue even if the variance gets, the actual variance gets changed up. I would expect those to continue into the summer. That's all I have, Drew.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Any questions from the TAC on Pam's report? I don't see any hands being raised, and we'll go ahead and move to public comment. If you'd like to make a comment on agenda item number 7, Potter Valley Project Update, please raise your hand or dial *9. Gina, do you see any indication of any public comments?
I'm not seeing any raised hands.
Thanks, Gina. Let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any advanced voicemails or emails on this agenda item as well. So Pam now can go get a glass of water. We're going to switch to agenda item number 8, Regional Water Supply Resiliency Study Update, and it's going to be Jay Jaspers.
Thanks, Drew. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to give a quick update on a project that we've talked about before and you're familiar with, and that's the regional resiliency study, water shortage resiliency study. And if I can just, I'm going to show about 2 or 3 slides here. If I can get permission to share.
I think he's. Do you have it, Jay?
There we
you
go.
Should have, yeah, you should have it now.
Now I do. Thank you. Okay, let me just put this up. Can people see that?
Yes.
Slides? Okay. So just very quickly, as a point of reminder and a refresher, the regional water shortage resiliency study is a project that is really intended to collectively look at our combined assets and resources all the way in the north from essentially Potter Valley down to the south, essentially to Sausalito. And in between that, collectively, we have a lot of assets, pipelines, reservoirs, booster stations. There are groundwater basins, reservoirs, Mendocino and Sonoma, of course, etc. And what this study is intended to do is really to remove all of the jurisdictional boundaries and then apply what I call stress tests to the system. And those stress tests, just in general, are really climate driven, in particular drought, which we are facing now, and also seismic. Last year, as you all know, we worked together and developed a work plan with our consultant, Jacobs Engineering. And we have just a few months ago started really what we call in phase 2, which is implementing the work plan. And essential to this implementation is the development of a model. And you can see kind of the conceptual layout there on the right, which really tries to incorporate the pertinent aspects of all the various collective assets. So then we can then look at different scenarios for water shortages. And then, of course, work together, the TAC and Sonoma Water working together to identify projects, either sub-regional or regional projects that will improve the overall resiliency for certain water supply shortages. The goals, of course, are to increase our overall resiliency. And there are also really some other important secondary goals, which are also very important. One is just to get us all working and thinking together on a regular basis. This is not intended to be a one and done analysis, but really kind of a process once we develop this modeling tool that we revisit this together and continue to update and keep this process alive. So there's a really value there in terms of really continuing coordination, communication, and partnership. Another benefit, of course, is that going through this process, not just having the tool and the analysis, but also just the process of working together, we really hope that this will put us in a good position where we can put forward resiliency studies, for funding, federal or state or other funding opportunities. And so that's kind of what we're doing and some of the goals. I have one more slide I'll just skip down to, because what I want to update you all on is been working with Drew and Jennifer. Given the extreme drought conditions we all are dealing with now, we really started looking at and thinking about, well, maybe what we need to do is kind of tweak our flow chart and our schedule and move up the drought scenarios that we need to look at. And we'll set aside the other scenarios, such as seismic work and seismic hazards, for a bit down the road, because what we have to deal with now clearly is a drought focus. And so that's what we've worked with Jacobs on, and we want to discuss here and present to you is that it's really kind of moving up into the process, the drought scenario evaluation. And so what this slide shows is the modified or accelerated schedule to push forward the drought resiliency aspects of the study. And essentially the important aspects are that the model that I mentioned hopefully is intended to be complete by the end of June. And that was per the original schedule. But what we are pushing forward is really the drought resiliency metrics. These are the objectives that we're going to really use the model to assess impacts of drought, and then success measures for different projects or resiliency measures. And then also to then conduct simulations of potential model simulations that will compare response measures, drought response measures versus a no action or a baseline scenario. And so by hoping, we hope that what we can do is by September, really have used the model, working together, developed some drought scenario simulations, and identified some project concepts, I'll call them, that we could put forward that hopefully our modeling process will show will move the needle towards overall resiliency for these types of droughts. Because we're very mindful, of course, we don't know when this current drought will end. Hopefully it'll be in the coming rainy season and winter season, but we don't know that. And hopefully this will, this work will put us in a good position to move forward in the unfortunate event if the drought continues into a third year. But even if we do have a rainy year, which we all want next year, we all know it's just a matter of time before the next drought comes forward, and we're going to have to grapple with it. So we want to move it forward regardless, because this is something that's not going to go away for us. And so that's really what I want to present, is that we are expediting the drought component of this project and moving it forward in the summer months. Jacobs, our consultant, who all of the contractors have met with, wants to start meeting individually this month and into July to make sure that the model they've developed adequately characterizes their everybody's general water systems and water resources, and also to get the latest information on how each of us is impacted by the drought and any kind of ideas. And then also working together collectively, Sonoma Water and the TAC, working through July, August, and September with Jacobs to then meet and talk about drought impacts, making sure they're appropriately characterized, and then looking at and exploring ideas, project concepts to address the drought. And so with that, that pretty much concludes what I have to report right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions folks may have.
Okay, thanks, Jay. You know, as all of us know, this is a contract with Jacobs that's been underway for many years, and we all have helped fund the project, and we recognize the importance of resiliency for multiple items, earthquakes and droughts. And little did we know, as this was developing, that we'd be right in the middle of a 2-year drought. And so it's really important that this effort's being made right now to accelerate this focus on the drought aspect of Jacobs' work, so that we can try to leverage whatever information will be available September-ish as we go into a potential third dry year. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, comments from the TAC. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move to public comments. If you'd like to make a comment via Zoom, please raise your hand or dial *9 on your phone. Gina, are you seeing any public comments?
I'm not seeing any raised hands for this item.
Okay, thank you, Gina. And again, let the meeting minutes reflect that I did not receive any advance questions or comments on agenda item number 8 via voicemail or email. So again, that was an information item. We move now to, we're wrapping this up here towards the end. Items for the next agenda, it'll pretty much be similar slate that we've had on this meeting. July is typically a tentative meeting, but it will be a firm meeting. So make sure that you have on your calendars that we will have a meeting in July. It'll be July 12th. At that point in time, we'll have an additional update on the temporary urgency change order and ongoing slate of agenda items that we have right now. Is there anything else from the TAC before I open it up to the public? Any other special agenda items? Not seeing any.
Drew?
Yes.
Jay, I think we were gonna have a presentation on a couple key capital projects going on up in the up near our diversion facilities this summer. Just give a status update on the inflatable dam replacement in the Russian River crossing, a seismic resiliency project. It'll be ongoing this summer.
Thanks, Jay. I did get that noted, failed to mention it. Okay, let's move to public comment on agenda item 9, items for the next agenda. Please raise your hand via Zoom or dial *9 if you'd like to make a comment.
I don't see any raised hands, Drew.
Thank you, Gina. So that'll bring us, and again, let the record reflect that I did not receive any comments in advance via voicemail or email. So that brings us to adjourning the meeting. I would like to adjourn and just acknowledge a shout out to Sandy Potter, who I just got an email this morning that she's retiring from the town of Windsor. So congratulations, Sandy, and thanks for all your good work with the TAC for these multiple years, and we wish you the best. And with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting, and hope everybody has a great week. Thanks again.
Yeah, she was too slow.